you. Ana me ka usa haya adum GH media. Se na ni dey kan wa ba se oba be hwe videos anu akai se an obe like no wa subscribe no wa share so ama foforo no ama comment so wa comment section ase. Se de be bibi ba net beto ha on sankofo no na inta ka bi na matima ba be hwe e de na si ana se de na ba no ba be hye eye ene 27th of February 2025. A State of the Nation address ani na ye twen ni mo se yewura John Dramani Mahama, President of Ghana, edbeba abeto oman nanim no ene ejebo ode apa an ene waba ede aba beto oman nanim na nsema hodo a wakunchiri anase okunchiri gu ne trimu ene nkrata aso eba ya obekan no emi nkwami ntimi ntena so nti ene media ba me no nya eba behye yenkotie na no disema oba ya ode abeto oman mu nyina oman mu ni nyina nim a nsem a ede na koma so a opese onfa medi djuma eye the next 4 years ahead oba be otena abanwa ne so no an the State of the Nation address an ene 2025 which is February 27th ene yewura John Dramani Mahama ode na do disem aba beto abonti yenko ne nkohwe video no mra ne ba de aka bia no na ye de ato ya san de aba beto anim an yenkohwe video no mra yenkohwe.
Thank you very much, the Right Honorable Speaker, Your Excellency the Vice President, Your Excellency the spouse of the President, Your Ladyship the Chief Justice, our Honorable Members of Parliament, Honorable Members of the Judiciary, distinguished leaders of our security services, Your Excellencies members of the Diplomatic Corps, our revered Nime Name, chiefs, traditional rulers, religious leaders, the national chairmen of political parties and executives, the good people of Ghana, I wish you a very good morning. Mr. Speaker, Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution requires that the President address the people of Ghana in whom sovereignty resides on the state of the nation. About 30 years ago, in 1996, I took my first steps in public service when I was elected to this august House as a Member of Parliament for the Bole Bamboy constituency. For 12 memorable years, I forged many enduring friendships and alliances while working with colleagues from both sides of the House to shape Ghana's legislative agenda and advance the development of our beloved country, Ghana. It has also been nearly a decade since I said goodbye to this House after delivering what many, including myself, thought at the time would be my final address to Parliament. God Almighty, Providence, and the unpredictability of life have summoned me here once again. On the back of a historic electoral mandate from the people of Ghana to deliver a message on the state of the nation. That mandate came with an unprecedented majority in Parliament. And here I am once again to deliver a message on the state of the nation. Mr. Speaker, I wish to convey my heartfelt gratitude to Parliament for the prompt vetting and approval of my nominees for ministerial positions. This efficiency is unmatched in the history of the Fourth Republic, demonstrating the strides we can make when we come together in our dedication to serve the people of our great country. I believe that a similar dispatch will be applied to the approval process for my deputy ministerial nominees. This will enable them to promptly assume office and assist their ministers in delivering our noble vision of resetting our dear nation. In making the nominations and considering the numbers involved, I considered the long expressed sentiment of the Ghanaian people about the sheer size of previous administrations and their associated cost implications. I trust that this significant reduction to 60 ministers and deputy ministers, including regional ministers, will set the stage for further reductions in the size of future governments. With the inauguration of the Council of State, we can begin appointing the staff of the presidency. I intend to significantly reduce the number of staff compared to what existed under previous administrations. All this is aimed at leading by example in cutting down government expenditure and reducing the budget deficit. Let me begin, Mr. Speaker, by invoking the timeless words of the hymnist John Oatman Jr., who encourages us to count our blessings and name them one by one. Yes, we're a nation troubled on many fronts, but we also have many blessings, among which is a now firmly established democracy that, for all its imperfections, has enabled 4 peaceful transfers of power in our land. Nestled in a sub-region that is often plagued by strife and political instability, there's a good reason to take sober satisfaction that these successful, peaceful power transfers have become routine. Mr. Speaker, 50 days ago, I took the solemn oath to assume leadership of this country and serve with truth and humility. This was preceded a month earlier by a watershed election that promised to revive our nation's fortunes and give us a new lease of life. The election result gave us an important opportunity to change course and move off the slippery slopes our country had been descending that had caused so much economic pain, suffering, and grief to our people. In their collective wisdom and with resounding clarity, the Ghanaian people chose to chart a new path to reset the country's economy. And through their votes, they made it clear that they will henceforth demand the highest standards of governance from those they put in positions of leadership. The good people of Ghana elected me to office with a historic electoral margin of nearly 1.7 million votes. Separating me from my next opponent, giving Ghanaians the first female vice president, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. For the National Democratic Congress, NDC, that resounding victory is a selfless call to duty from a people who are tired of years of economic hardship and poor governance. That call therefore places an obligation on us and all who serve, including legislators from both sides of the House, to do our utmost with decency and humility to change the circumstances and the state of our country. Mr. Speaker, as I stated earlier, Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution requires that I give an account of the state of our nation to Parliament. I'm sad to report that the state of our nation is not good. Our economy is in crisis and our people are suffering unprecedented hardships. Mr. Speaker, we will host a national economic dialogue on March 3rd and 4th. On March 11th, the Minister of Finance, on my behalf, will present the budget estimates for the financial year 2025 to this August House. These two events will allow us to present the real state of Ghana's economic crisis to the people. Mr. Speaker, it is not my style to lament and shift blame when confronted with challenges. Mr. Speaker, it's not my style to lament and shift blame when confronted with challenges. My approach is to accept challenges and work hard to resolve them. Indeed, this is precisely what the people of Ghana elected me to do. I have therefore not come here to lament on the state of our country, though there's much to lament about. I understand why I was elected with such high voter confidence, and that is to solve Ghana's problems. With your permission, Mr. Speaker, and within the constraints of time, I'll take the liberty to elaborate on how we intend to address the numerous challenges facing us as a nation. Yesterday, February 26, 2025, marks exactly 10 years since I stood in this chamber, at this very spot, to declare my determination to fix Dumso, a legacy problem of power shortages. And Mr. Speaker, I fixed it. Yes, I promised to fix it, and I did. And I wish to place firmly on record that from January 2016 until I handed over the administration of this country on January 7, 2017, there was no power rationing or load management in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, today, inspired by the Almighty God and propelled by the massive mandate given to me by the good people of Ghana, I am moved to make a similar purposeful and bold declaration that I, John Dramani Mahama, I will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity. That I will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity. My government, working with you and every Ghanaian, will solve the challenges because we have developed the plan with our people's support. When I decided to run for president again, I did so because of what I knew about the state of our country. I was aware that huge problems awaited me upon assumption of office, but nothing could prepare anyone for the reality of the depths to which our economy and our governance had sunk. Our elders say that a frog's true length can be ascertained only after it has died. Apotrowa ni ehun ne tenten. And how right they were. It is common knowledge that our economy is in dire straits, which is putting it mildly, because an initial assessment of the books we have discovered, after initial assessment of the books, we have discovered that our economic problems are much deeper than was previously known. We have inherited a country that is broken on many fronts. The profundities of the challenges confronting us are staggering. We are saddled with staggering debts and glaring signs of almost deliberate and, in some cases, reckless mismanagement of our resources. Mr. Speaker, not even the restraints of an IMF program were enough for the previous economic managers to exercise prudence in managing our finances. After setting an inflation target of 18% by the end of 2024, the actual outturn was 23.8%, significantly higher than the threshold agreed with the IMF. The Ghana cedi continued its downward slide, losing 19% of its value against the dollar in 2024. It had already in the previous year lost 27.8% of its value. In addition to the public debt, which amounts to a staggering 721 billion cedis, several state-owned enterprises are also in debt, including the ECG, which owes 68 billion Ghana cedis. Ghana Cocoa Board, the hope of cocoa farmers, is also highly indebted. Its balance sheet indicates a total debt of 32.5 billion Ghana cedis, of which 9.7 billion is due to be paid at the end of September 2025. In 2023-2024 crop season, Cocoa Board was unable to supply 333,767 metric tons of cocoa, which it had sold at $2,600 per ton. As a result, the then management of Cocoa Board rolled over these contracts into the 2024-2025 season. Honorable members, Mr. Speaker, this implies that for every ton of cocoa delivered this year, in fulfillment of the rollover contracts, Cocoa Board and Ghanaian farmers are going to lose $4,000 in revenue. Mr. Speaker, as I address this Honorable House, Cocoa Board has supplied 210,000 tons out of the rolled over contract, resulting in a revenue loss of $840 million for both Cocoa Board and the Ghanaian farmer. Mr. Speaker, Cocoa Board and the Ghanaian farmer will lose another $495 million by the time the board finishes supplying the remaining rolled over contracts. Additionally, Cocoa Road commitments alone total 21.7 billion cedis, of which only 4.4 billion is included in the total debt of 32.5 billion. This debt has arisen mainly because of the decision in 2019 and 2020 to award road contracts worth over $1 billion because of the election. Mr. Speaker, the energy sector faces significant financial challenges, primarily due to collection and system losses, non-compliance with the cash waterfall mechanism, and legacy debts. The financing shortfall has risen considerably to approximately $2.2 billion, or 34 billion Ghana cedis for 2025. And urgent measures will be needed to reduce it to sustainable levels and ultimately eliminate it. The financial sector continues to struggle despite the reportedly spending of 29.9 billion on the financial sector cleanup exercise up to date. Scant reserves were also left for debt servicing, despite implementing what may be considered the most severe and distressing economic policy in the annals of the Fourth Republic, if not in the entirety of our nation's history. And I'm referring to the domestic debt exchange program. This is in stark contrast to our actions in 2017 before we left office, when we allocated $250 million to the sinking fund handed over to the incoming government to service debts, Ghana's debts. There have been claims that buffers were left for debt repayment, oncoming debt repayment this year. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me give you the statement of account for the debt service reserve account, which is also popularly referred to as the sinking fund. This fund shows a balance of only $64,000 in the dollar account, $64,000 in the dollar account, and 143 million Ghana cedis in the CD account. The repercussions of the accumulation of debt and economic mismanagement will require extensive work and sacrifice to repair. In the next 4 years, to put things in context for you, Mr. Speaker, in the next 4 years, our debt servicing will amount to 280 billion cedis. And this comprises of 150 billion for domestic debt and 130 billion in external debt servicing. Our catastrophic debt position has also severely impacted infrastructural projects that should have been completed. Currently, there are 55 stalled projects due to the default of debt and subsequent restructuring, with a total value of $2.95 billion not disbursed. The stalling of these projects is expected to result in a cost overrun of about 15 billion cedis. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding this gloomy background, I remain committed to leading this government and taking every necessary step to reset our economy, getting things back on track, and working with the good people of our country to build the Ghana we want. Mr. Speaker, we are doubling our efforts to complete all outstanding structural reforms. Through the budget, we will implement corrective measures to restore fiscal discipline and debt sustainability. We're also working hard towards completing the upcoming fourth review of the IMF-supported program. The review is scheduled from April 2nd to April 15, 2025, and the IMF Executive Board is expected to approve it in June of this year. As we have done previously, we're also building buffers in the sinking fund and adopting prudent debt management practices to ensure prompt repayment of upcoming domestic and external debt maturities. In this respect, government successfully honored the matured coupon payment of $6.081 billion in cash and $3.46 billion in kind, which was due in February 2025 to all domestic debt exchange program bondholders, fully paid. Mr. Speaker, the good news is that we have also built additional buffers in the sinking fund to honor the maturing bonds that are due in July and August. And so bondholders can rest assured that they will be paid to the last pesewa, whatever is owed them. With the transparent and prudent measures we have implemented since taking over the administration of this country, I urge my countrymen and women, business owners, and foreign investors to trust our competence in turning our economic fortunes around. Mr. Speaker, since we took office on January 7, 2025, we have upheld our commitment to a fiscal consolidation agenda with a streamlined government. We have eliminated unnecessary expenditures and reduced our reliance on borrowing. Our prudent debt management practices have led to a substantial reduction in interest rates. The 91-day Treasury bill rate, which was 28.51% on January 6, 2025, has dropped to 24.48% as of February 24, 2025. Similarly, the 182-day Treasury bill rate, which was 29.07% as of January 6, 2025, has decreased to date to 25.388%. Mr. Speaker, the 364-day Treasury bill rate has also moved from 30.41% to 27.30% in the same period. We signed a memorandum of understanding with our official creditor committee, OCC, to formalize the debt treatment agreed upon with our official creditors. This marks a crucial step towards Ghana's restoration of long-term debt sustainability. The agreement will enable financial resources to support and strengthen our economic recovery. Mr. Speaker, on February 20th, 2025, the National Tripartite Committee and the Public Services Joint Standing Negotiating Committee concluded negotiations on the 2025 minimum wage and base pay for the single-spine salary structure, respectively. I want to use this opportunity to reiterate my sincere gratitude to organized labor and the Ghana Employers Association for the understanding and cooperation in reaching this agreement on the minimum wage and the base pay. On the final day of negotiations, I enjoyed the privilege of joining my comrades, the leaders of organized labor, for the concluding discussions. I'm confident that the sacrifice we have all made this year will significantly benefit our economy's health in the future. We look forward to a positive economic outlook as we restore macroeconomic stability, we encourage exports, we activate the 24-hour economy policy, we implement the $10 billion Big Push policy for swift infrastructure development, we rationalize taxes and foster inclusive growth. The goal is prosperity for all, which must be shared and not the prerogative of a select few. Mr. Speaker, in fulfillment of our 120-day social contract with the Ghanaian people, we have put in place the Planning Committee to host the National Economic Dialogue. This dialogue is expected to discuss the state of the economy and reach a consensus on the key policies needed to address the devastating economic crisis confronting us. It will support the development of a homegrown fiscal consolidation program and it will highlight key structural reforms and policy priorities essential for resetting the economy and creating prosperity for all our people. I believe there's absolute wisdom in what our elders say, that two heads are better than one. Tikro and Kwejina. Consultation and consensus building have always proven to be better than unilateral decision making. It is my hope, therefore, that our colleagues on the other side of the divide will display love of country and participate in this national dialogue, unlike the boycott of the Senchi Forum in 2014. I humbly choose a different path of accommodation and cooperation with all stakeholders. We will continuously engage on important issues so that together, as a nation, we can reset our country and focus on sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, together we shall build the Ghana we all want. Mr. Speaker, my administration inherited an energy sector on the brink of collapse. It was weighed down by unsustainable debt. This unfortunate situation has led to many independent power producers and fuel suppliers threatening to cease their operations. Mr. Speaker, listen to this. Despite collecting over 45 billion cedis in energy sector levies, ESLA, over the last 8 years, the outgone administration has left the Ghanaian people with an energy sector burdened with a staggering debt of 70 billion cedis as of December 2024. It is of deep concern that several state-owned enterprises in the energy sector are struggling to stay afloat, and unless urgent interventions are made, many of them will go under. Financial distress in the energy sector remains a significant obstacle to delivering consistent and affordable electricity to Ghanaians, and it poses an existential threat to our economy in general. Compounding these challenges, critical maintenance activities such as the scheduled pigging of the West African gas pipeline, WACO, were postponed from 2024 to 2025 without sufficient contingency measures for alternative fuel supply. As a result, my administration has had to swiftly mobilize resources to secure emergency fuel supplies to ensure that electricity generation continues despite the closure of the West African gas pipeline. I've been informed that the pigging exercise will be completed in the first week of March, and once again, additional gas will flow from Nigeria. We are anticipating a marked improvement in the power situation once this begins. While the current state of our energy sector poses grave concerns, we must remain resolute in our commitment to restoring stability. I've directed the Minister for Energy and Green Transitions to implement far-reaching reforms, including enforcing a single revenue collection account, strictly adhering to the cash waterfall mechanism, and eliminating all wasteful expenditures by the state utility. Mr. Minister, Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, following my directive, Mr. Speaker, following my directive, the Minister has set up an advisory committee to guide the participation of the private sector in metering and billing in order to improve efficiency in revenue collection and also reduce the high commercial and technical losses that are threatening to drown the state-owned utility company. A pilot partnership between ECG and Enclave Power has proved highly successful and provides us with a workable framework. ECG provides bulk supply of power to Enclave Power Limited. This is an organization in Ghana. Enclave Power provides meters and bills to all companies operating in the free zones enclave, with 99% revenue collection and nearly 100% uptime in power supply. This is being done here in Ghana. we can use it to cover the rest of the nation to ensure that we get revenue compliance and be able to bring down tariffs for our people. Mr. Speaker, I'm still getting used to being president, that's why I said Mr. President. Mr. Speaker, reduction in commercial and technical losses will lead to affordable tariffs for everyone and will bring relief to all users of electric power. We also aim in the medium term to achieve 100% gas utilization for power production and to eliminate completely the use of crude oil and fossil fuels. This will save Ghana hundreds of millions of dollars spent on the importation of fuel oils for power production annually. With regards to renewable energy, this administration will soon operationalize a renewable energy and green transition fund to enhance efficiency and accelerate Ghana's transition to renewable energy. This initiative will drive investments in sustainable energy solutions, including solar street lights, rooftop solar installations, off-grid solar systems, electric vehicle charging stations, and rechargeable outboard motors. These measures will reduce dependence on the national grid and position Ghana as a leader in Africa's green energy transition. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's petroleum sector has witnessed a precipitous decline, with crude oil production sinking by more than 32%. This has resulted from the high opacity levels, a very hostile business climate, and excessive political interference in the sector, culminating in most of the major oil companies exiting and stalling all upstream activities. The decline in upstream activity is obvious to any person familiar with the twin cities of Sekondi and Takoradi. Just under a decade ago, these cities were the bustling epicenter of fabrication, logistics, service activity associated with the upstream oil and gas sector. Unfortunately, my recent visit reveals many shut down facilities and many businesses have packed and left the shores of our country. Hundreds of workers have been laid off and left unemployed. I wish to assure the good people of Sekondi Takoradi and indeed the whole Western region that we are going to breathe life back into your area. Mr. Speaker, we have already commenced revitalization of our upstream petroleum sector by creating a business-friendly and congenial environment for our partners and other prospective investors who wish to come in. My meeting with the players in the upstream sector have been extremely positive, and we have been assured of substantial investments running into billions of dollars in the very near future. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Energy and Green Transitions gave the directive for the removal of the unitization based on the arbitration that took place. We believe that this will open the way for an amicable resolution of the issues between Springfield and ENI, and this should make our oil and gas prospects more attractive to investments going forward. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has fertile lands, abundant water, and human resources. Yet we face a paradox. Our food import bill continues to soar, reaching alarming levels of over $2 billion annually. In addition, rising food inflation is burdening households and threatening livelihoods. To address this, we're implementing several well-considered policies to grow the agricultural sector, including agro-processing. This will be backed by reliable power supply to meet our country's needs while advancing exports to earn foreign exchange and strengthen our economy. Mr. Speaker, the Agriculture for Economic Transformation Agenda, AETA for short, will modernize agriculture, enhance agribusiness, ensure food security, it will lower food inflation, it will boost exports, and create sustainable jobs. The Feed Ghana program will increase food production and reduce prices through projects like the Grain Development Project, focusing on rice, maize, and soya bean production. The Vegetable Development Project will target crops such as tomatoes, onions, and pepper. Our poultry farm to table project will eliminate poultry imports and increase local production. Ghana imports 95% of its poultry needs, which costs over $300 million annually. To reverse this trend, government plans to revamp the poultry sector by investing in hatcheries, feed mills, processing, and distribution, working towards eliminating poultry imports. And this is the good one. The Nkukon Kitinkiti project. We actually have a project called Nkukon Kitinkiti. The Nkukon Kitinkiti project will cover 55,000 households producing eggs and fresh poultry for the market, and it will help reduce our $300 million we spend on importing chicken annually. Mr. Speaker, to strengthen the connection between agriculture and industry, we will prioritize value addition, processing, and distribution, and this will position agriculture as profitable and appealing, making it more attractive to our young people. We will implement an Agri-Next program to facilitate access to land banks by young farmers, to connect graduates with opportunities in the agricultural value chain, and promote greenhouse agriculture among the youth. This initiative will benefit approximately 30,000 young people. Mr. Speaker, the Livestock Development Project will also address Ghana's reliance on imported meats by restocking breeding farms and increasing local livestock production, thereby creating jobs and boosting self-sufficiency. For years, access to mechanization, quality seeds, fertilizer, and extension services has been a major challenge to our farmers. To address this, government will establish our flagship farmer service centers in every agricultural district, ensuring that farmers receive essential mechanization services and resources to improve their productivity and efficiency. Mr. Speaker, also in the fisheries sector, we implement strategic interventions to enhance productivity and sustainability. Key among these initiatives is the continued enforcement of measures to curb illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, which threaten our marine biodiversity and the livelihoods of our hard-working fisherfolk. We have intensified surveillance and monitoring operations, bolstered by the deployment of modern technology and strengthened collaboration with our key stakeholders. In the last month, we have expanded the supply of subsidized premixed fuel to support artisanal and industrial fishers, ensuring affordability and availability. We'll also invest further in modern fish landing sites and cold storage facilities to improve post-harvest handling and thereby reduce losses and enhance the quality of our fish products. Aquaculture development is a key focus of our administration. We'll provide financial and technical support, especially to young fish farmers, increasing fish production and reducing our dependence on fish imports. To increase the value addition in this sector, we'll encourage the establishment of fish processing facilities, create more jobs, and boost exports. Our commitment to supporting women in the fisheries sector remains steadfast as we implement the programs to empower female fish processors and traders with financial capital and capacity building initiatives. While we work hard to fix the economy and provide jobs in all sectors, including agribusiness, one of the biggest crises we face in this country is youth unemployment. Youth unemployment has led to despair and frustration. The latest estimates show that up to 2 million of our young people are unemployed. This poses a major security risk for our country and requires urgent attention. To bring much needed focus to the desperate and widely scattered youth employment programs and to ensure stricter accountability in their implementation, I have set up the Ministry for Youth Development and Empowerment in furtherance to the promise I made in the campaign. This ministry, that is the Ministry for Youth Development and Empowerment, is mandated to formulate, coordinate, and monitor policies and programs to promote youth development and empowerment in this country. Mr. Speaker, As part of our Operation Recover All the Loot policy, Mr. Speaker, as part of our Operation Recover All the Loot policy, ORA, I've already tasked our investigative bodies to bring the culprits of the National Service Ghost Name scandal to justice. Such brazen theft of public funds must not go unpunished. It is estimated that the criminal addition of some more than 80,000 ghost names could have yielded the suspects over 50 million Ghana cedis every month. Unfortunately, some of these suspects are believed to have absconded from the country already. I have directed that they be declared wanted and their assets traced and frozen until investigations are completed. To achieve a legally robust regime to govern national service, I've also tasked the Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment to coordinate and present to Parliament a legislative instrument to support the implementation of the newly passed National Service Authority Act 2024. That's Act 1119. We will introduce short military training as part of our national service scheme. This will instill a sense of fitness and discipline into our youth. The administration of scholarships is another challenge. It has been fraught with a lot of challenges. The poor who genuinely need scholarships are unable to access them because the rich and wealthy always crowd them out. To fulfill our government's vision of promoting transparency, equity, and sustainability in the scholarship scheme, we shall streamline the award process to ensure that not only deserving youth benefit from the system, deserving youth benefit from the system. We shall introduce increased transparency, including publishing the list of beneficiaries every year. Mr. Speaker, job creation is one of our main pillars, and it was one of the major promises we made to the youth of Ghana. To help actualize this promise, we're going to roll out what we call the Ejumawura program. This initiative will create, track, and mentor young businesses annually with a special focus on our youth. For the first phase, the top 2,000 implementable business proposals will be supported with business development training, mentorship, access to startup capital, marketing, and networking to operationalize their innovations and business ideas. We will also launch our flagship National Apprenticeship Program to equip at least 10,000 young people in the informal sector with employable skills, including providing apprenticeship fees and startup kits when they have completed. The Youth Development and the Interior Ministries will facilitate the training of our young people in the Okada business in areas such as road safety regulations, financial literacy, and digital skills, as well as facilitating the acquisition of motorbikes. We will introduce electric motorcycles on a high purchase scheme to eliminate the use of petrol and make their businesses more profitable. Mr. Speaker, Her Excellency the Vice President's Empowerment for Women and People with Disabilities program will also be launched this year. The program will target women and people with disabilities and other vulnerable groups to build their capacity and offer them access to finance to create their own jobs. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovations will also focus on developing youth IT skills and fostering innovation. Under the 1 Million Coders program, young people receive training in coding, web app development, digital marketing, and other digital skills. This initiative aims to equip them with the necessary skills for employability in the digital ecosystem. We must provide meaningful and relevant education to prepare our youth for today's technology-driven job market. Despite various reforms, issues related to low-earning incomes persist within Ghana's educational system. I'm committed to ensuring that quality education remains a top priority. The system we have inherited is outdated in many ways and must be realigned to meet the needs of the 21st century and the fourth industrial revolution. Recognizing the urgent need for national dialogue on education and in the spirit of inclusive governance, I launched the National Education Consultative Forum on February 18th in Ho. I look forward to the recommendations which we will incorporate into our sectoral policy reforms. Mr. Speaker, even though Article 38 of the Constitution guarantees equitable access to education across Ghana, 30 years after the Free Compulsory Universal Basic Education FQ program was implemented, its full objectives remain unmet. To tackle this issue, government will redefine the scope of basic education and introduce the Zero to Hero initiative to enhance foundational literacy and numeracy. Additionally, ICT training will be integrated into early childhood education at the basic level. Over the next 3 years, it will be expanded to cover at least 300 classrooms, 30 centers of excellence, 1,000 teachers and district teacher support teams focusing on the teaching of mathematics and literacy. This year, the Ministry of Education will fully implement a new curriculum for senior high technical schools and STEM schools, introduce a standardized national sign language for hearing impaired learners from kindergarten to SHS, and review the kindergarten and primary school curriculums. To increase access to quality education, we will scale up our social intervention programs like the capitation grants, the feeding grants for special schools, and the government's BECE registration initiative. Mr. Speaker, to promote inclusion and equity, the government will enhance and resource the Islamic Education Unit to recruit more Islamic and Arabic tutors for English-Arabic schools. We will establish STEM and TVET schools in underserved and peri-urban communities. We will provide scholarships to brilliant but needy students in deprived communities, especially for study in law, medicine, and engineering. We will support Islamic colleges of education with infrastructure and logistics, and will enroll youth in Zongo and deprived urban communities in the National Apprentice Program and offer free technical and vocational training. Mr. Speaker, it is important to continue to retain and motivate our teachers in all schools, especially in the rural areas. Government will begin plans for the implementation of the 20% allowance for teachers who agree to serve in rural schools. District assemblies are going to be involved in this scheme to ensure that the teachers are present and teaching in the schools that are selected. This scheme will reward such teachers for their sacrifices and ensure quality education nationwide, not only in urban centers. Mr. Speaker, as part of our Teacher Dabre initiative, the construction of teacher accommodation units to improve welfare and attract teachers to rural areas will commence this year. Mr. Speaker, no new school will be built in this country without teachers' accommodation. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, once again for emphasis and for the record, I, John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic of Ghana, will not cancel the free SHS program. I will not cancel the free SHS program. I am determined to make it better by improving its implementation. And also, for the record, students who have benefited from the free SHS since its inception are about 3.4 million. The figure of 5.1 million beneficiaries, as put out by the previous administration, was an exaggerated and false narrative calculated to achieve political credit. Mr. Speaker, while the free SHS program has improved access, the implementation of the program leaves much to be desired. The outcomes of the ongoing National Education Forum will guide our reform efforts in this sector. Mr. Speaker, in line with our promise, the Minister for Education has announced the restoration of Parent-Teacher Associations, PTAs, in the running of schools. It is important for parents and communities to participate in the administration of their schools. The Ministry of Education and GAS will, however, ensure that PTAs do not impose unbearable financial burden on parents and students who cannot afford them. Mr. Speaker, the double track system remains a challenge, and we are committed to eliminating it by accelerating school infrastructure expansion and completing stalled educational projects. To fund this, the Education and Finance Ministries are working to uncap the GET Fund so that we can accelerate projects in secondary schools. As promised, we have begun improving secondary school feeding, and the children are getting better quality food as I address you. Mr. Speaker, efforts to decentralize school feeding and food management include strengthening procurement and store management records capacity. Once completed, food procurement and management will be fully handed over to the secondary schools to do their own food procurement. Mr. Speaker, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are central to national development, STEM. We will therefore expand STEM programs at all levels to equip all students for the global economy. We don't believe in building single standalone STEM schools. We believe that STEM must be part of the curriculum of every secondary school. Mr. Speaker, regional TVET centers of excellence will be established to provide practical skills. Every region will get a TVET center of excellence to expand technical and vocational education training. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, Ghana has consistently missed its gross tertiary enrollment targets, with a rate below 22%, far from the 40% goal that has been set by 2030. Despite over 460,000 secondary graduates coming out annually, 55% qualify for tertiary education, and only 35%, 161,000 of the 460,000 enroll in tertiary education, leaving over 300,000 without access. To address this, government is introducing a no-fee stress policy to eliminate tertiary admission fees, which currently serve as a barrier to higher education for some students. This will be supported by an enhanced student loan scheme, which is called the Student Loan Plus. The no-fee policy will also cover all persons with disabilities. And for emphasis, persons with disabilities will pay no fees for tertiary education throughout their study. And so PWDs who gain admission to tertiary institutions will pay no fees. Additionally, TVET enrollment will be increased from 11% to 20% to boost employment. Mr. Speaker, rising enrollment has strained university infrastructure, causing overcrowding and inadequate accommodation. We are determined to expand access, improve quality, and align tertiary education with national goals, particularly in STEM. Feasibility studies for new public universities or campuses of existing universities to be established in the 6 new regions will commence this year. Seed funding for these projects will come from the GET Fund in order to enhance access. Government will this year engage with the existing public universities to identify suitable sites on their campuses, acquired lands, for the implementation of the private sector participation in the provision of hostels project. This is a partnership between government, the universities, and private investors to expand hostel capacity on their campuses. This will allow more students to be accommodated on the campuses to allow for a better learning environment. Mr. Speaker, academic freedom will be upheld. We will not interfere in the administration of our tertiary universities. And our hope is that the institutions will ensure good governance in their administrative practices. Mr. Speaker, next, our health sector faces significant challenges that jeopardize the very foundation of affordable health care. The Ministry of Health has a total liability of nearly 15 billion cedis when co-financing obligations, judgment debts, and payments to clear medical commodities at the ports are all put together. The last major hospital equipment replacement program was undertaken in 2014 when I was president. Since then, most hospital equipment in the Ghana Health Service facilities have deteriorated or broken down. Mr. Speaker, the Agenda 111 program, which was started as a knee-jerk reaction during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the Ghanaian public had begun to appreciate the significant investments that the previous NDC administration had made in healthcare facilities, and began to lament the many hospital projects that had stalled under the previous administration, a promise was made to build 111 hospitals. Mr. Speaker, I'm sad to note that there is no dedicated funding source for such a gargantuan project. There is no dedicated funding source for this gargantuan project. Mr. Speaker, for the record, as I speak, not a single Agenda 111 hospital is operational. In any part of Ghana, I challenge you, not one is operational. Mr. Speaker, and it is worth disclosing that $400 million has already been disbursed under the Agenda 111 project. Mr. Speaker, at a rate of approximately $80 million per hospital, this $400 million spent could have completed and made operational at least 22 of those hospitals. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the money should have been focused on completing a number of hospitals and making them operational instead of spreading it over the current 111 hospitals. As I speak, some are at the foundation level and not a single one is operational. I have directed the Minister for Health to present us with a plan on the way forward for this program. And let me add that we are open to public-private partnerships and franchising to complete and operationalize these hospitals. Mr. Speaker, one of the most pressing issues confronting our health sector today is the USAID's sudden 90-day pause in services without prior notice and the looming threat of complete withdrawal of programs that do not align with the USA's strategic interests. Programs that will be affected include the delivery of medical commodities to regional medical stores and health facilities in the Upper West, Upper East, Northern, and Savannah regions. USAID support for the National HIV/AIDS Control Program includes the supply of antiretroviral therapies in the Western, North, and Afro regions. These will also be affected. The withdrawal puts at risk approximately $78 million in earmarked funds for malaria, maternal and child health, nutrition, and HIV/AIDS. It also covers some programs being run at the Noguchi Memorial Institute in research. The impact will be challenging without urgent intervention. I've therefore directed the Minister of Finance to make immediate financial arrangements to mitigate this loss, and I expect that this will be reflected in his budget, which will be presented to this House next month on March 11th. Working with the NHIA will revive the Onuado mobile healthcare vans. These vans will provide OPD, ophthalmology, dental, ENT, cancer screening and care in the remote and most vulnerable communities in our country. An earlier attempt to provide mobile health facilities was abandoned after the change of government in 2017. Mr. Speaker, public health experts are grappling with the conundrum of new diseases and re-emergence of old diseases. The unpredictable nature of disease outbreak suggests we must make our health systems more resilient to shocks. Since October last year, Ghana has faced a severe cholera outbreak. As of February 17, 2025, I'm sad to report that 6,300 suspected cases, 545 of these cases were confirmed to be cholera, and unfortunately we lost 49 of our compatriots. The outbreak has affected 118 districts across the Greater Accra, Central, Western Ashanti, and Eastern regions. To control the situation, we have launched an aggressive vaccination and public education campaign, among other interventions. Mr. Speaker, sanitation within the context of infectious disease outbreaks, personal hygiene, and environmental sanitation must be a major priority for us. Our cities and towns must be made cleaner than what we currently have. We commit to right the wrongs and keep our cities and communities clean through appropriate investment, supervision, and performance tracking in the sanitation sector. Mr. Speaker, as I speak, the Upper West region is facing a severe meningitis outbreak. And I know, Mr. Speaker, you have made an important contribution to ameliorate the situation in your region, and I commend you for that. As of February 17, 2025, 135 suspected cases of meningitis were reported. 22 of those cases were confirmed, and unfortunately, 16 deaths have been reported across 10 districts. We've instituted free treatment for affected persons and deployed a strong national team of health experts to encourage early reporting to health facilities of suspected meningitis. Mr. Speaker, as outlined in the 2024 manifesto of the NDC, my administration is actively developing the framework for the rollout of the free primary health care program. When fully implemented, this initiative will mark a significant step towards Ghana achieving goal number 3.8, which is universal health coverage of the SDGs, by eliminating financial barriers to basic health care access. Also in line with our 120-day manifesto commitment, the composition of the technical committee is far advanced, with plans to establish the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, also known as Mahama Cares, in the coming weeks. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, this fund will be dedicated to financing the treatment of non-communicable diseases, which have seen a significant rise over the past decade. As part of this initiative, the government is committing to allocate financial resources towards this project in 2025, with further support to be mobilized from private sector partners to ensure the sustainability of the fund. Once operational, the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, otherwise known as Mahama Cares, will directly address the financial burden of patients who require dialysis treatment, cancer care, and other critical non-communicable disease-related interventions. Together, the free primary health care, which will focus on early detection and prevention and treatment, and the Ghana Medical Trust Fund program which will focus on relieving the financial burden of treating non-communicable diseases, will help to revolutionize Ghana's healthcare system by improving healthcare accessibility and outcomes and enhancing productivity and well-being across the country. Mr. Speaker, Ghana will become the pharmaceutical manufacturing hub of West Africa. And my previous record in government speaks for itself. When I injected funds into Ghanaian-owned pharmaceutical companies to expand their production capacities. Mr. Speaker, as this exciting phase unfolds under the 24-hour economy initiative, we must strengthen every aspect of our pharmaceutical industry. And this includes the Food and Drugs Authority and the Customs and Security agencies in order to avert the use of fake drugs and the importation of illicit drugs into our country. We await thorough and unbiased investigation into the alleged opioid pill importation into Ghana and other West African countries. The outcome will be shared, and I can assure you necessary action will be taken. Mr. Speaker, as a Social Democrat, I'm resolutely committed to eradicating all forms of discrimination in our society. Our vision is to foster fairness and cultivate an inclusive environment where everyone can engage fully and equally in social, economic, and political life. With my Vice President, the history-making Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, we will engage with all stakeholders, including our development partners and civil society organizations, to prioritize gender equality, equity, and social justice. We will establish strong social protection mechanisms and enhance legal safeguards for women, girls, and other vulnerable groups. Our initiative would include enacting comprehensive laws and policies designed to dismantle harmful social norms, to enhance access to crucial resources and opportunities, particularly for young women, and reduce overall vulnerability within our society. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take a moment to commend you and this House for your unwavering support and guidance, which were instrumental in passing the Affirmative Action Act of 2024, Act 1121, during the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic. My government is dedicated to successfully implementing this act to ensure gender equity across the political, social, economic, educational, and cultural spheres. The Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection is actively collaborating with relevant stakeholders to guarantee that this act is fully operational, including attaining the 30% target quota for women in political appointments. I'm pleased to report that women currently make up 23.21% of all appointments, and we are diligently working towards reaching the targets set forth in Act 1121. I'm, however, concerned about achieving gender balance, especially at the local government level. Very few women have mastered the courage to apply for the positions of metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives. And unfortunately, the few who have courageously applied have been edged out on very flimsy and parochial grounds. It is my hope that the National Constitution Review Conference will clear a pathway for the election of DCEs. The Gender Ministry will then be obliged to encourage and support more women to apply and stand for these elective positions. In our pursuit of empowering women, Mr. Speaker, we'll establish the Women's Development Bank. This will be a specialized financial institution designed to support businesses owned and led by women through the provision of low-interest loans and tailored financial services offered under very flexible terms. Consultative processes are underway to ensure the successful launch of this bank. And as part of our 120-day social contract, the Minister for Finance is going to allocate initial funding for the Women's Development Bank in the upcoming budget that will be presented to this House. Mr. Speaker, we are also implementing measures to expand the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty program under our Big Leap initiative. As we work towards completing the Ghana National Household Data Census by this year, 2025, will reassess the status of LEAP beneficiary households to facilitate the enrollment of new beneficiaries. Mr. Speaker, we are committed to enhancing the legal framework surrounding disability rights by passing the Persons with Disability Amendment Bill. Additionally, we will introduce a legislative instrument to strengthen further the provisions of the Persons with Disability Act, Act 715 of 2006. We reiterate our commitment to ensuring that individuals with disability have access to free tertiary education and equal opportunities to pursue their academic and professional ambitions. Mr. Speaker, the government intends to ensure the implementation of legislation that enjoins public and private employers to reserve 5% of their employment for persons with disabilities. I am aware that a private member was shepherding this bill. Government is going to support that motion in order that 5% of all employment is reserved for persons with disability. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's sports sector, once again, which was a shining example of excellence within Africa, now finds itself at a very critical juncture. Historically, our nation has been celebrated and has had remarkable achievements in boxing, football, and athletics. Unfortunately, this is no longer the case. However, recent years have unveiled depressing structural deficiencies in administration, funding, infrastructure, and talent development. Immediate and comprehensive reforms are imperative to reclaim our rightful place on the global sports stage. Mr. Speaker, we will develop a comprehensive national sports policy to align with international norms. This policy will be accompanied by an exhaustive review of the Sports Act of 2016, that is Act 934, and the rigorous enforcement of the Sports Regulations 2023 LI 2477. Infrastructure development remains paramount in our strategy. The government is committed to refurbishing existing national stadia, completing youth resource centers, and constructing new sports facilities in the new regions. We'll also prioritize community recreational facilities to foster greater participation in sports at the grassroots level. Recognizing the critical role of youth development, we're implementing a significant overhaul of grassroots sports with the establishment of the School Sports Authority. This body will oversee structured inter-school competitions and talent identification initiatives essential for nurturing future sporting champions. Over 60% of Ghana's elite athletes have emerged from these school sport programs. The ministry has now been renamed the Ministry of Sports and Recreation. To acknowledge the significance of recreation, we will launch a National Recreation Day. This will be a monthly initiative centered on community engagement alongside an annual National Recreation Festival. These initiatives will encourage keep fit activities and promote active lifestyles. It will promote traditional games and strengthen community bonds. Next month, the senior national team, the Black Stars, which is now a pale shadow of its former glory, will play 2 World Cup qualifying matches. I've instructed my office and the Minister for Sports and Recreation to hold the Ghana Football Association accountable to the people of Ghana as we prepare for these games, especially regarding the budget of the FA. There will be no secrecy in how much the government spends on the national teams. The budgets presented by the FA and other sports associations must be known by the public. After all, it is the taxpayers' funds that are used to fund these activities. The reduction in government expenditure and waste reduction applies to all sectors of the economy, including the Ministry of Sports and Recreation. Mr. Speaker, tourism, culture, and creative arts remain vital cornerstones of our national development strategy, playing a significant role in job creation, cultural exchange, and economic growth. In recent years, the ministry has launched transformative initiatives to position Ghana as a premier global destination, and this is positive. These positive initiatives aim to harness the country's rich cultural heritage, natural beauty, and our dynamic creative sector. Our flagship initiative, the Black Star Experience, aims to establish Ghana as the gateway to Africa for the global diaspora, featuring thoughtfully curated cultural, historic, and creative arts experiences in collaboration with the private sector, diplomatic missions, ministries, departments, and agencies. Our aim is to position the Black Star experience as a uniquely Ghanaian tourism brand. The Pan-African Month will be a part of the Black Star experience. It will include street carnivals, a film week, a fashion festival, a food fair, theatrical and drama performances, concert party competitions, and monthly domestic tourism destinations. We will strategically promote meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibition tourism to diversify our tourism offerings. Ghana's peaceful and democratic environment positions us as an attractive hub for international summits, business conventions, and high-profile gatherings. We must capitalize on this unique advantage to maximize our benefits and strengthen our reputation as the country that is closest to the center of the world. We're also committed to revitalizing the Accra Marine Drive project, a significant urban redevelopment initiative which was designed to transform approximately 241 acres of Accra's coastline into a vibrant tourism and economic hub. Although the cabinet approval for this vital project was achieved during my presidency in 2016, progress has stalled. We'll reassess the work completed and take decisive action to bring this all-important project back on track. We will develop the Osu Castle, the former seat of government, and the area around it as a tourist attraction. It will have a pedestrian precinct with arts and craft markets, jewelry and gold markets. This approximate 22-acre land will become a destination for tourism. Mr. Speaker, our road network is the cornerstone of our nation's infrastructure, facilitating over 90% of the transportation of goods and services across this country. This vital network is critical in supporting agricultural growth by linking farmers to markets, lowering transportation costs, and ensuring quicker access to essential supplies and services. The resulting interconnected benefits foster a vibrant economy and enhance the livelihood of countless of our citizens. Mr. Speaker, while the previous government has made lofty claims about achieving unprecedented milestones in the road sector, available evidence does not support its assertion that it constructed over 13,000 kilometers of new roads. Instead, it has perpetuated a narrative that presents road maintenance and rehabilitation efforts as new construction projects, misleading the public about what has been achieved. The proportion of poor roads has increased, especially in urban centers, where the number of roads in disrepair surged from 46% in 2015 to almost 60% by 2021. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, our road sector is in crisis, mainly due to years of mismanagement. As many as 85% of awarded contracts in the road sector have stalled, and the contractors have stopped work due to non-payment, and most of them have packed their equipment off-site. Mr. Speaker, as of December 2024, unpaid bills owed to contractors in the sector exceeded 20 billion Ghana cedis for work that had been carried out between 2018 and 2024. For instance, the Ghana Road Fund obtained a loan of 600 million Ghana cedis in March 2018 to refinance outstanding debts and borrowed an additional 1.2 billion Ghana cedis from a syndication of banks in November 2019. Alarmingly, upon assuming office, the Ghana Road Fund still had outstanding payments, including some as low as 2,000 Ghana cedis, dating back to 2018. Current commitments for road projects that are unpaid currently stand at an astonishing 105 billion Ghana cedis. Despite these considerable challenges, this government remains steadfast in its commitment to prioritize vital infrastructure projects that address the pressing backlog of poor roads. Our strategy will be anchored in executing our flagship initiative under the Big Push program. The Big Push will see major rehabilitation of many key roads in the feeder roads, urban roads, and highway sectors. We'll also undertake the following key initiatives to revitalize the road sector. We'll reintroduce tolls, road tolls, using modern technology. We'll rationalize the road sector portfolio to focus on high-impact initiatives. Mr. Speaker, we will uncap the road fund in order that it can accumulate more money to pay for road maintenance. Mr. Speaker, we'll minimize sole source procurement to encourage competition, competitive bidding, and enhance public transparency in the procurement processes. Mr. Speaker, the drip equipment, which was acquired at the last moment as a knee-jerk reaction for electioneering purposes, will be reorganized into regional mobile maintenance units to provide emergency road works in the regions. Mr. Speaker, I've realigned the Ministry of Transport to oversee 4 modes of transportation: aviation, maritime, inland water transport, road transport, and railways. The government will commission a feasibility study to develop coastal water transport services. This initiative aims to promote alternative modes of transport and ensure their integration into our existing systems under the National Transport Policy. It also aims to enhance tourism, reduce road traffic, and mitigate environmental pollution. Motorcycles and tricycles, commonly known as Okada, hold significant potential as a more convenient, timely, safe, and cost-effective mode of transport. Currently, the Road Traffic Regulation of 2012, LI 2180, prohibits licensing motorcycles and tricycles for fare-paying passengers. As part of our government policy, the Ministry will amend the regulatory framework to regularize the use of motorcycles and tricycles for commercial passenger transport. In our ongoing effort to revitalize the whole airport, the government will facilitate the establishment of the state-of-the-art pilot training academy and a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility. The Volta region will become a center of excellence for aviation training and aircraft maintenance. This project will create significant employment opportunities. It will stimulate economic growth and bolster tourism in Ho and the surrounding communities. I have directed the airport company to release 10 acres of land at the Ho airport for this purpose. Mr. Speaker, with the completion of the Tema-Mpakadang rail line, the government will launch passenger services between Tema and Adome. We'll also begin developing the necessary infrastructure on the Volta Lake to facilitate freight transport between Tema Port and Bupe as part of our Eastern Corridor multimodal transport system. The Western Railway line will continue to be modernized in partnership with the private sector. This initiative aims to support the efficient transport of bulk cargo and minerals from the mines in Nsuta, Awaso, and Yinahin to the Takoradi port, while providing passenger transport along the Western Corridor. Mr. Speaker, the last attempt by the previous administration to re-establish a national airline has failed. We will reopen a transparent process that will receive expressions of interest to invite competent established partners to work with us to establish a national airline. We believe that an efficient national carrier can help reduce fares on routes where external carriers are currently enjoying a monopoly. Mr. Speaker, our communications and digital technology initiatives focus on expanding our national digital infrastructure to stimulate innovation and enhance public service delivery. We're also dedicated to improving access to information and communication technology, promoting the digital economy, ensuring inclusive and equitable growth across all sectors. Nevertheless, the sector faces several significant challenges that hinder our progress, and these include insufficient infrastructure for delivering weather and climate services across all time zones, fragmented and uncoordinated databases, outdated legislation and policies that do not keep pace with a rapidly evolving sector, a lack of adequate technology to effectively detect, prevent, and respond to cybersecurity threats, and a daunting debt burden of almost 2 billion cedis. To revitalize this sector, government is committed to reviewing existing laws and policies to better align them with emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data, Internet of Things, and machine learning. Additionally, we will develop and expedite the enactment of the Kofi Annan Center of Excellence Bill. This legislation will establish the necessary framework for the center to concentrate on research and development, consultancy services, and capacity building. Mr. Speaker, access to safe and reliable water and affordable housing significantly enhances the well-being and quality of life of our people. These elements are integral to our reset agenda and fundamental to our vision to build the Ghana that we all want. However, the water sector in Ghana faces considerable challenges, including illegal mining activities that contaminate fresh water sources, rendering them unsafe for drinking and agriculture. This alarming situation highlights the critical need for a decisive and ongoing effort to combat illegal mining, to save our environment and our public health. Government will prioritize completing new and ongoing water projects to improve access to safe drinking water. This commitment should be good news for the people in the Keta, Adaklu, Wenchi, Sekendi Takrade, Asankragwa, Sehwiyoso, Dodoaso, Kweman, Damfa, Goso, Dwabeng, Aveime, and Edubamso. We'll also tackle critical water projects in Damango, Tamale, Yendi, Sunyani, Techiman, and Takwa to ensure broader access to potable water nationwide. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has a coastline that stretches approximately 550 kilometers. 2/3 of this coastline is threatened by tidal wave erosion, which impacts nearly 30% of Ghana's population. Rising sea levels have exacerbated vulnerabilities in coastal areas, leading to flooding, habitat loss, and community displacement. Consequently, coastal protection has emerged as a critical national priority. And so, for the communities that are threatened by flood currently, we're going to prioritize building sea defense to be able to protect you. Flooding has become an all too frequent occurrence in many urban centers across the country, resulting in tragic loss of life, livelihood, and property. This scenario underscores the urgent need for sustainable solutions to address these pressing challenges. Many of our drainage systems are inadequate. They are worsened by careless waterway construction and obstruction, and the relentless encroachment on wetlands and floodplains. To tackle these issues, we have to explore alternative sources of funding to support essential drainage works, desilting, flood control, and coastal protection. Mr. Speaker, the quality of life of any nation relies significantly on a well-regulated and efficient housing market that guarantees access to decent homes. Our housing deficit is estimated at over 1.2 million units, and this has been the situation for many decades. High costs associated with land acquisition, construction material, and access to financing have made home ownership unattainable for many, primarily affecting vulnerable populations and contributing to the rise of slums. This government is steadfast in its commitment to complete all ongoing housing initiatives, beginning with the Saglemi Affordable Housing Project. We'll also implement a low-cost social housing project supported by a district housing scheme. This project aims to remove the financial barriers to home ownership. Workers in the formal sector, public or private, who have about 15 to 20 years before retirement, can purchase and own a house in cedis and have the cost deducted monthly from their salaries until the house is fully paid up. Mr. Speaker, illegal mining, commonly known as galamsey, has inflicted tremendous harm on our forests, leading to significant land degradation and pollution of vital water sources. This reckless activity threatens Ghana's environment and public health. Mr. Speaker, I'm sad to report that presently 44 of the country's 288 forest reserves have been impacted. An area that is alarmingly equivalent to approximately 8,000 football fields has been completely destroyed. Mr. Speaker, the pollution levels in major rivers within the southwestern basin are critically high, with turbidity levels far exceeding possible units. To combat this urgent crisis, we're implementing a proactive approach that includes robust and impartial law enforcement, meaningful stakeholder engagement, and the creation of alternative livelihoods for our citizens involved in galamsey. We're expanding the Minerals Commission regional offices to strengthen their regulatory oversight. We will establish a framework that categorizes mining activities into small, medium, and large scale, each with its tailored regulations. Mr. Speaker, we will establish a gold board, and we're in the process of doing it. Legislation will come to this House shortly. This gold board will ensure effective governance of the gold industry. At the same time, we wish to take advantage of Ghana's salt production capacity to place it as a central export commodity under the African Continental Free Trade Area. We will also seize opportunities presented by the global shift towards net zero emissions to craft policies related to critical minerals such as lithium. The anticipated development of the integrated aluminium and iron industry will significantly increase the value of Ghana's natural resources. In our commitment to restoring degraded forests, we will launch the Tree for Life restoration policy and the Blue Water Initiative, which will transform mined-out areas into ecological recovery zones. This ambitious afforestation program aims to establish more than 50,000 hectares of new plantations and undertake 5,000 hectares of enrichment planting annually. We'll also implement public sensitization campaigns to foster sustainable forest management practices and uphold the Wildlife Resource Management Act. We're going to involve school children and the general public in tree planting and tree growing. Mr. Speaker, comprehensive reforms will be introduced to enhance transparency and efficiency while ensuring tenure of security in land administration. Climate change remains a pressing concern for Ghana and the global community. To meet our climate mitigation targets, Ghana has allocated 24 million metric tons of its carbon budget, totaling 64 million metric tons of carbon for authorization under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. We've successfully authorized 3 projects which are poised to reduce 5.2 million tons of our carbon emissions. In line with our manifesto, we are committed to strengthening institutional and human capacity through necessary adaptation and mitigation measures to bolster resilience in critical sectors such as agriculture, forestry, energy, and water resources. We also pledge to align our national policies with international efforts to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade by 2050 and promote a fair and just transition to renewable energy sources. Mr. Speaker, we stand on the cusp of making history, the history of a country that prioritizes transparency and accountability as key elements of governance. During my campaign for president, I pledged, as captured by the NDC's 2024 manifesto, to take a strong stance against corruption. Mr. Speaker, we must end state capture. Mr. Speaker, we must end the purchase of state and public assets, such as land and other immovable assets, by members of the political class. Mr. Speaker, I pledge to fight corruption head-on by implementing Operation Recover All the Loot, ORAL. In that regard, Mr. Speaker, one of the first committees I established, even before my investiture as president, was to establish the oral committee on the sidelines of our transition. It is instructive to announce that the committee received over 2,000 complaints from the public and has since handed over a comprehensive report. This report has been given to the Attorney General for further review, thorough investigation, and eventual prosecutions. Mr. Speaker, the recent arrest related to the unwarranted payment of $2 million of Ghanaian taxpayers' money in the Sky train saga, and then also the National Service Ghost Name scandal, mark only the beginning of a comprehensive response based on the oral committee's findings. Mr. Speaker, let me state that my commitment to fighting corruption will continue with the establishment of a unit at the presidency and the maintenance of the hotline where complaints and reports regarding graft and corruption will continue to be received and transferred to the Office of the Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, we will shortly submit for consideration a bill to regulate and restrict the sale of disposal of public lands and state assets. Mr. Speaker, as soon as the 2025 budget is approved, government will immediately take steps to reform the existing anti-corruption agencies by increasing funding and improving transparency and accountability. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians voted largely and overwhelmingly and endorsed the NDC because we demonstrated a strong commitment and abhorrence for corruption. We pledged to fight corruption and implement far-reaching reforms that will eventually achieve a sustainable zero-tolerance policy against corruption. Mr. Speaker, the justice and legal sectors play pivotal roles in ensuring accountability and fostering the fair, equitable treatment of all our citizens by the state and its agencies. Delays and uncertainties have plagued justice delivery in Ghana, leading many Ghanaians to perceive a politicization of the judicial process. The public trust in the judiciary's independence is alarmingly low. We must work together to restore confidence in the judiciary. My government will uphold the judiciary's independence and work with the Judicial Council and services to depoliticize justice delivery and collaborate closely with the Chief Justice to combat corruption effectively. Mr. Speaker, in line with our manifesto promise to reform and expand legal education, we have developed a legal education reform bill ready to be presented to Cabinet for approval and laying before this August House Parliament. Mr. Speaker, on January 30th, 2025, I inaugurated the Constitution Review Committee to undertake a comprehensive review of our fundamental law and ensure that it reflects the hopes and aspirations of our citizens. The committee is composed of distinguished scholars, jurists, and professionals who have made significant contributions to our nation in both the public and private sectors. They will engage Ghanaians and consult with the relevant stakeholders and experts over the next 6 months. Their findings will ultimately be presented to the public for approval, followed by submission to Parliament for enactment into law, and referendums will be held where necessary. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to report that Ghana's internal security remains stable despite developments primarily rooted in chieftaincy disputes. We firmly believe that even amidst conflict, it is essential for our citizens to coexist peacefully and seek amicable resolution to these disputes. We will initiate comprehensive reform across all security agencies to strengthen our national safety and security. One area that has garnered significant public scrutiny is the recruitment process within our security forces. Accusations of politicization, favoritism, protocol, and selectivity have been prevalent. Let me assure you that we are committed to changing that narrative and fostering a more transparent and equitable recruitment policy so that all our young people who wish to serve in these services have an opportunity to do so. We are dedicated to enhancing the capabilities of the Ghana Police Service, the Prison Service, the Ghana National Fire Service, the Immigration Service, and the Narcotics Control Commission, the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, and all investigative bodies operating under the Ministry of Interior. By motivating and re-equipping these agencies, we aim to effectively maintain internal peace and security. Mr. Speaker, I want to reaffirm this government's unwavering commitment to prioritizing the welfare and well-being of our brave men and women in uniform who sacrifice daily to uphold law and order and secure our nation's peace. We will invest in adequate equipment and suitable accommodation for our security personnel. As Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, I want to emphasize our determination to strengthen our democracies. This is particularly true given the troubled proliferation of military-grade weapons that have fallen into unauthorized hands. These weapons pose a significant threat to our national security and our constitutional democracy. They endanger the safety of all Ghanaians and potentially exacerbate existing conflicts such as chieftaincy disputes, and in many cases fall into the hands of armed robbers. Since taking office, we have pursued a responsible approach to account for these unregistered weapons while maintaining stability within the security apparatus. I'm pleased to report that we've made substantial progress and are committed to ensuring that those responsible for this situation are brought to book. In our efforts to safeguard our citizens, Mr. Speaker, to safeguard our territory, to maintain our democracy, we remain vigilant against the threat of violent extremism and terrorism. Therefore, we are resolute in enhancing our defense mechanisms through diplomacy, counterintelligence, information sharing, infrastructure development, and the acquisition of appropriate technology. Achieving a stable and secure nation necessitates the motivation of our uniformed personnel. Currently, the Ghana Armed Forces faces a housing shortfall of over 17,000 units, and we recognize that the inadequate state of barrack accommodation needs to be addressed promptly. In addition to housing, we'll prioritize improvements to rations and fuel supplies for our security forces. Quality healthcare is another critical aspect of motivating our armed forces. As we work to expand and improve facilities at the 37 Military Hospital, complemented by the recently restored oxygen plant, we remain committed to finishing the delayed Afari Kumasi Military Hospital, which is still a top priority for my government. The goal is to complete and operationalize this facility before the end of this year. Mr. Speaker, like many other state institutions under the previous administration, the Ministry of Defense is burdened with approximately 3.7 billion cedis in debt, a figure that continues to grow as new and undisclosed debts are uncovered. However, the demands of our Army, Navy, and Air Force continue to rise, necessitating the need for modern platforms for effective operations. Despite these financial challenges, I am confident that the Ghana Armed Forces possesses the human resources necessary to revitalize the defense industry's holding corporation, which can support the government's efforts in this regard. DHOC, which was begun under the late President John Evans Atta Mills of blessed memory during my tenure as chair of the Armed Forces Council, is essential for fueling Ghana's industrialization drive, which is aligned with our 24-hour economy initiative. Although DHOC has expanded, it's yet to be fully optimized to deliver the returns needed for the Ghana Armed Forces and our nation. I've tasked the Minister for Defense with incorporating innovative and significant private sector participation into DHOC's operations to harness its considerable potential for economic growth. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's strong international reputation was reaffirmed by the historic participation of foreign leaders during the swearing-in of the President, myself, and Vice President Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman on January 7th, 2025. Mr. Speaker, it reflects the confidence our country's stability and democratic progress has engendered in the international community. Ghana remains committed to its Pan-Africanist ideals, non-alignment, democracy, and global cooperation, and the rule of multilateralism, embracing a policy of friends to all and enemies to none. We'll continue to cultivate diplomatic ties based on mutual respect and shared values. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is open for business. Our policy on economic diplomacy focuses on export diversification, foreign investment, and job creation. A new blueprint and delivery unit at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs with clear performance indicators will be launched soon to ensure foreign engagements yield tangible benefits for our people. Because of emerging security threats, especially on our borders, Ghana is committed to security initiatives, particularly in the Sahel region. We'll maintain a continuous engagement with our Sahelian neighbors and continue to work with them to resolve the difficult situation that they are confronted with. I've appointed a special envoy to help sustain diplomatic relations with our Sahelian neighbors, aiming to achieve their reintegration, if possible, back into our regional bloc. Mr. Speaker, we'll expand passport application centers nationwide to reduce processing times to 7 days. We wish that a passport will be delivered within 7 days from the date application is submitted. These comprehensive reports at the passport office is going to align with our vision of a 24-hour economy. The passport office is going to work 24 hours to process passports that have been applied for. Mr. Speaker, as we reset Ghana to serve Ghanaians better, government will also revamp the labor administration institutions in the country. We'll promote social dialogue and foster harmonious industrial relations among stakeholders. In the coming months, the National Tripartite Committee, led by the Sector Minister, will organize a national labor conference to discuss pertinent issues affecting labor and employers. The recommendations are expected to influence and shape government's policies and programs in this sector. Mr. Speaker, we will launch the Ghana Labor Export Program, which would allow Ghanaians to go abroad and work with countries that we have signed agreements in specialized areas like engineering, technology, welding, carpentry, masonry, and nursing, teaching, and so many and so forth. The government will maintain strict fiduciary responsibility for the operation of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority and the Social Security and National Insurance Trust. This year, the NPRA will fully automate its internal operations and the pension industry will be regulated. This is critical to safeguarding the growing pension fund assets. As part of measures to increase pension coverage in the informal sector, which currently stands at only 11%, the government will implement an informal sector pension inclusion initiative to increase participation in micro-pension schemes. Decentralization has been at the heart of our government system, yet key players in the process, such as assemblymen and women, often face neglect and inadequate compensation. Mr. Speaker, I did promise to pay modest allowance to our assemblymen and women, and I'm committed to keeping this promise. The Honorable Minister, when he presents the budget to this House, would have a provision for allowances for Assembly members. Mr. Speaker, I have just unveiled the state of the nation as I came to meet it. I've also disclosed several measures that I intend to take to address the challenges we have inherited. Nonetheless, no matter how well-intentioned our efforts to reset our economy are, they will not yield the desired outcome without the support of the people of Ghana. And so, to my dear countrymen and women, you have clearly and unmistakably expressed your displeasure with the poor governance and corruption that has existed in the past. Mr. Speaker, some of our compatriots did so even at the peril of their lives, just as our 28 February crossroads shooting national heroes did in the Gold Coast. May all such martyrs of democracy, those who have died in the process of elections and in the process of just exercising their civil rights, may they rest peacefully in the bosom of the Lord, Mr. Speaker, we will, as I promised, investigate these deaths and we will provide appropriate compensation to the families of those who have died during the elections. My brothers and sisters, you gave me a compelling mandate that leaves no one in doubt about your expectations of me and my government. You embraced the vision to generate new and well-paying jobs through the 24-hour economy initiative. The arrogance of power that you so much abhor will be a thing of the past. I will enforce and demand the highest standards of performance from those I have chosen to work with me to improve the circumstances of our country. I'll publish a code of conduct that they will be strictly made to abide by. Mr. Speaker, it would be remiss of me if I didn't admit that the entire economic value chain is currently in the internal ICU, As I recall mentioning a few intensive care units, as I recall mentioning a few years ago when we were still in opposition, the economy is even worse than we had envisaged. But this gives us ample opportunity to be innovative in our efforts to resuscitate it. And so what are the key takeaways from me for the people of Ghana? 1, that we shall fight corruption effectively. 2, that we shall run a lean government of no more than 60 ministers. 3, that we shall realign the ministries, agencies, and departments to eliminate duplication. 4, that will introduce austerity, reduce wasteful expenditure and spending, and improving tax collection. 5, that we shall widen Ghana's taxness, reform tax waivers, especially on investments, and return to our homegrown solutions. 6, that we will grow what we eat and reduce imports of food and goods that can easily be produced here in Ghana. Your voice and contributions will prove invaluable on this journey of national reset, and I encourage you to make your voices heard. I commit to the judicious use of your resources, eschewing waste and ostentation. We will always endeavor to make the most of the little we have, so that together we can guarantee a brighter future for our children and our children's children. Though the state of our nation now may appear bleak and the task of addressing it may seem daunting, nothing should stop us from achieving our goals once we set our minds to it. In one collective push, we can resolve to make this great nation bequeathed to us by our forebears and see it come to fruition. Mr. Speaker, Ghana's economic challenges are not insurmountable. They present the government and everyone else the opportunity to innovate, to reflect, review, and reset, which is the theme for the commemoration of our scaled-down 68th independence anniversary. Mr. Speaker, it is said that there is strength in unity. Ghana's greatest strength lies in its people, its young and energetic youth. If we stand united, we can be more resilient and build together the power of collective action to overcome economic and social challenges. Every Ghanaian, regardless of political affiliation, background, or status, has a responsibility to play a key role in nation building and work towards a complete reset of our country. Mr. Speaker, let me assure you that we are leaving no one behind as we reset to rebuild the Ghana we want. We will rebuild a Ghana that works for all of us and not just a few. We shall live the dreams of our forebears in our lifetime. And so, my countrymen and women, where despair once existed, let hope radiate. And where the sun appeared to set on our bright prospects as a nation, let a new dawn of enthusiasm and renewal supplant it. So that when I come and stand here next year to present a message of the state of our nation, it will be one brimming with excitement and happiness. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for this opportunity. I thank honorable members for your kind attention. May God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.